Jonno, Michael, it's a pleasure to meet you both. How you going today?
Hey,
Really
Nick.
good, Nick.
It's good to hear. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I'm really excited to talk to you both because genuinely, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. I've had the chance to see it twice now, and I genuinely love this movie. So I'm really excited to break it down with you both. I want to sort of kick off with something that I think, obviously, the movie explores a lot of Robbie's relationships in the film, but the one that is sort of emotionally I've resonated with the most was the relationship with his nan. And I think it's so beautifully portrayed on screen. So I'm curious for both of you, from a filmmaker's perspective and an actor's perspective, what were those conversations with Robbie like about the relationship with his nana, and why was it so important to have that as sort of the heart of the film?
I think from really early on, Rob talked about his nan as just the point in his life that was unconditional love.
Mm.
And when so much of this narrative is about seeking approval and affection from others, um, having this singular source that is a constant is really grounding and really, special. So to establish that right off the bat, in the second scene of the film, he comes home, the kids have been making fun of him, and he's sitting on the couch with his nan and, watching TV. And there's just this beautiful bond between the two of them. The moment, it sort of gets a little uncomfortable in that scene. She takes him off and, puts him in the bath. And I think it's so relatable to kids and that relationship with a grandparent, because we all do understand that you just get this unconditional love from these truly magnificent beings that are your grandparents. And so I think from a relatability point of view and for a grounding rock in Rob's life, what makes it narratively strong is that at the point when he's facing Nebworth, you take away all of the things that support him and love him. You take away Nicole, you take away his nan, you take away his best mate Nate, and you take away his dad. So by the time he ends up at Nebworth, he's literally there without any support. And and from there we watch him spiral. And so again, from a narrative point of view, to set up that constant, and then to have it not be a constant at the time he needs it most, is again, it's structured in that way. So yeah, John, what was your?
Yeah, I think Nan is your potential hero. I think she's the person that when you're watching, you're thinking this could be the person that breaks through and saves Rob.
Yeah.
It's if there was a world in this movie where someone stripped him of the monkey and like made him see him for who he really was, it would be Nan. So when she goes, I think you're mourning not only her loss, you're mourning Rob's loss. His kind of, it feels like a losing battle as soon as she's gone. But also that, like you said, that figure in everyone else's life, it makes you want to, when you're watching, it makes you want to ring your nan. It makes you look back at your relationship with those loved ones and gone, wow, I really wish I'd just done that extra call or spend those extra 2 minutes with her when she rang me and I wanted to get off the phone to do the other thing. And I think people feel that in themselves when they watch the movie.
I would agree. It's just it's such a beautiful aspect of the film that really did touch me. It'd be remiss to not talk about the songs in the film. I'm curious to know sort of how the selection of songs came about. Sort of the songs really move forward the narrative, and I think retrospectively listening to them after watching the film, you get a bit more context as to how Robbie was in that place. But I'm curious to know, from a screenwriting perspective all the way through to where we are with the film, what was that song selection like, and were there conversations with Robbie as well about how the songs were going to be used?
There wasn't really conversations. He sort of left us alone to let the narrative drive the song selection. And that's really what it was like. You'd hit a moment, and I always say you sing when words no longer suffice. So you hit an emotional tentpole moment. And in that moment, a la his dad hopping on a bus and driving away, what of Rob's catalog of music? And it is an enormous catalog. What lyric speaks to this moment.
Mm.
And quite often songs that are written, original songs like in Showman, you get to tell the story in a very bespoke way. And when you're using existing music, a la Moulin Rouge, you're trying to give existing hit songs a new context.
Mm.
And that's a really exciting way to work. And we're very fortunate that when you go through Rob's catalog, it is very personal and it's very autobiographical.
Mm. Absolutely.
As to where he is at that moment in his life, you know. So songs like Come Undone lyrically really speak to a moment where someone is spiraling. And so, yeah, I think we're very fortunate in that he does write from a personal place. And we just had access to this vast catalog of hit songs that we could play with narratively.
Is there a song for either of you of Robbie's collection that sort of has the context has changed retrospectively from the first time you may have heard it to now working with him and he's having his story come to screen? Is there a song that has sort of changed contextually for you both?
Come Undone for me. You've already mentioned it. I think, you know, when that was released, I was fairly young and just heard it as a good pop song, right?
Yeah.
But as you get older, you actually pay attention to the lyrics, and it's such a driving force. It's such a turning point in our movie where that comes in.
Yeah.
That now it's you know, it's not only my favorite song, but it's for me it's the most hard hitting. It's his most vulnerable. It's his most raw.
Yeah.
You really see that the animal, the caged animal in there, kind of just battling with themselves.
Yeah, Come Undone definitely has a whole context now that, but I think the best version of songs is where you can't hear them now without thinking back. I'll never be able to hear She's the One and not think back to that narrative on the boat, you know?
Yeah.
Come Undone, I'll always think of that, you know, that kid driving away in the car and the emotions that he's fighting with. And Better Man, you know, Better Man, I can't listen to, you know, the lyrics of Better Man and not think to that moment on the ice. I think it's haunting now in a way that is a credit to the original songwriting, to be honest.
I would agree. Better Man was the one for me as well. Seeing that in the film and after going through all these events, it was the one that sort of changed through the context a lot for me. Still speaking about music and songs, I guess in a sense, one of the most I guess profound lines of dialogue that I heard in the film is when Robbie is told songs are only valuable if they cost you something. And I'm curious to know what that line means to both of you as artists, as an actor and as a filmmaker. How does that is I guess art in replacement for songs of that, but if art is valuable, does it really have to cost you something? That's quite personal. How do you both feel about, I guess, that line?
I don't think it has to.
Sure.
I think that's putting a boundary on something that's so objective in terms of what art is for other people. I think as an actor, when you're, I think probably individually my best work is when you feel like you've given, you know, you've really paid your dues. You know, there's something very validating and gratifying that when you finish a day and you're like, wow, that was work, you know, that I had to really implement myself there in many ways in order to get something that's desirable in terms of our art and our work. And I think that's really it's a sense of achievement when you feel like, but the worry with it is you can often overshare with that, right? You can often overgive often, and I think that's where stuff can get dangerous, where you allow too many people or too much of yourself to be exposed, and it's once it's out there, it's hard to bring back. And so there's definitely a nuanced skill in making sure the right amount is given up, and you've still got something to hold on to yourself, because if it's all gone, what do you then have as privacy? What do you then have as your own kind of internal being that's your kind of driving force throughout?
And for you, Michael?
Yeah, someone said the other day that it is a good point. It doesn't have to cost you, but from my experience, everything I've ever worked on has come at a huge cost.
Sure.
So I really relate to that statement. Simon Gleason wrote that line, and I wish I could take credit for it. Great line.
Yeah, it's an incredible line.
Yeah, but it's definitely in my experience, it does come at a cost.
It's the price for good art, I guess, and it's something that I think impacts audiences. I think we sometimes feel that when we're watching things like this on the screen. I want to sort of shift gears a little bit to what I think is maybe one of my favorite movie scenes of the year, and that's the rock DJ scene. Like, that's a genuinely incredible moment in the film. But I'm curious to know from a storytelling perspective how important that scene was to use to progress the story. It was obviously, we're looking at so many phases of Take That's career, I guess, for lack of a better word, during that scene. So I'm curious to know what that was like, putting that all together to actually forward the narrative and choreographing the scene for that purpose.
So I think that when you're doing songs with the new context, it's either the lyric that's driving it forward, or if not the lyric, because quite often a pop song will say a phrase and then basically repeat it. That is the earworm of pop. And in those cases, you have to progress the story visually. And so Rock DJ is 100% a progression visually. You know, the boys come out on the street, they've just signed their first record deal. Robbie imagines he's the front man of the band and that he is leading them down the street. Just his delusion as to where he sees himself, because obviously Gary's the front man of the band. And they go from being a bunch of lads just, you know, yahooing their way down the street with no one knowing who they are, and no one really paying that much attention to them, to by the end, you know, being the biggest thing in all of Europe, where they can't even move down the street without getting absolutely mobbed by a horde of screaming fans. And that, in the course of just a single number, is a great evolution through the early Take That days, and we sort of pinpoint those moments in time through their outfit changes, their sort of iconic outfits throughout their time as a band. And so you're getting visual progression in the world, you're getting visual progression in the outfits, and you know, and you're sort of getting almost like you're not sure whether you're watching the hopes and dreams of what Rob hopes will be the future of Take That, or what is, you know, meaning you're sort of running a parallel path between imagination and reality.
It's just such an incredible scene. John, I want to ask about a specific aspect of your performances, Robbie, that stuck out to me. And I don't know if I was looking into it too deeply, but there's a couple of scenes where the intense breathing of Robbie is sort of seems like a very key part of his character, whether it's either to calm him down, center him, or if he's letting out aggression or something. I'm curious to know how much conscious thought went into sort of not just how you were doing that breathing, I guess, but what it sort of meant to get into the character like that. Was that something that was sort of a conscious decision in playing Robbie?
Yeah, it's really well picked up, man. Myself and Michael had quite a few conversations on breath and how impactful it can be, whether it's not there at all. As soon as you hear someone stop breathing, it's really jarring and really uncomfortable. But also we used it definitely as a mechanism between switching between worlds of his kind of his imposter syndrome, his fear before performing, that kind of hyperventilation, to okay, I've got to go do it, and that kind of light him up moment, and using it as a switch. It helped with the animalistic side of stuff. We were cautious that we were never going to dip too far into monkeyisms. We felt it was too gimmicky. So how do we incorporate it with more subtle work? And breath was certainly one of those things. You know, it's one of those brilliant things. It's similar to where going on your haunches. It's a human thing, but as soon as you put the guise of a monkey on top of it, it really feels like a monkey mannerism. And so that's where we felt like the magic was in terms of the crossover between species, rather than spoon feeding an audience to say, look, oh, remember we're a monkey. Yeah.
It's an incredible aspect. I'll close out on this, and just in the spirit of sort of Robbie looking up to his three idols throughout the film, which comes up a couple of times. I'm curious to know whether it's singers, filmmakers, or actors. Do you guys have the three, I guess, gods, for lack of a better word, that do inspire you to be the better artist that you want to be?
Read it off quicker than me. Justin Timberlake.
Yep.
He was who made me want to dance when I was younger. He was the person I was dancing to in my bedroom, so which allowed me to have some set of skills for this. So he's up there for sure.
A little rocky body.
A little rocky body, 100%. Yeah,
in the bedroom.
Justified albums, Future Sex Love Sounds. I touched his leg when I was 15 at a concert. I never looked back.
Doesn't sound creepy at all.
Yeah,
no,
no,
yeah.
I was back then.
He was crying.
Yeah. You do what?
Bob Fosse, without question, is
Yep.
just phenomenal. Terry Gilliam, absolutely love.
That's awesome.
I think he just brings imagination into the world so masterfully.
Serena McKellen would be my actor, probably. He was the person that made me want to be an actor. I saw him on stage at a young age, and it was the first time I saw something that wasn't like white man saves the world blockbuster. It was my first introduction to theatre, and just seeing the way that he can manipulate text and gather an audience with such little text as well, I thought was fascinating. So he'd be my acting god, I think. And then Michael Gracey.
And Jonno Davies would be my third.
Yeah, nailed it.
That's fantastic. Guys, like I said, I genuinely loved this movie. I'm excited to see it again. I'm excited to take so many people to see it. It's just the energy of it is so electric, but by the end, I was, as soon as Angels played, the tears started falling as well. So it's such a beautiful film. It's incredible. I think you both are fantastic. I really enjoyed talking to you both today, and I hope we get to do it again sometime soon. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it, bud.